The wind howled across the silent cliffs, carrying with it the low, sorrowful hum of something ancient and unseen. High above the misty peaks of the Wormback Mountains, where no birds dared to fly and even the stars seemed to whisper, a single tear glistened on the edge of a stone ledge, then slipped away, falling into the deep nothingness below. In the shadows of the jagged rocks, the earth trembled softly as if it too wept in silence. Far beneath those cliffs, hidden in a forest of silver-leaved trees that shimmered like moonlight, a young girl named Luma pressed her palm to the bark of an old tree. The tree's surface was cool and smooth, like a polished stone, but her hand came away wet. Not from rain, not from dew, from something warmer, something sadder. A soft thudding sound echoed through the grove. Not footsteps, not thunder, something deeper, like a heartbeat trapped inside a mountain. Luma stepped back. Her chest tingled with a strange kind of fear, the kind that came not from danger, but from mystery. That morning, she had followed a trail of glowing feathers, each one floating gently to the ground like a snowflake of light. They had led her far beyond the village orchard, beyond the whispering grasslands, beyond even the place where maps stopped drawing lines. Now she stood in a world that felt too quiet, too still, and yet alive with secrets. The last feather drifted down before her eyes, landed gently on a moss-covered stone, and burst into a wisp of golden mist. Then the trees sighed, not with wind, with breath. Behind her, a low rumble echoed, as though a mountain had exhaled. And that's when she saw it. Something vast and coiled, gleaming like iron and moonlight, motionless. A dragon, but not just sleeping, crying. The dragon's tears shimmered as they slid down the curve of its silver-scaled snout. Each one landed without a sound, sinking into the moss as if the earth had been waiting for them. Luma stood frozen, her eyes wide, her breath caught somewhere between wonder and worry. The creature was enormous, larger than any beast she had read about in her storybooks. Its wings, folded gently against its sides, stretched longer than a sailboat mast. Its horns curled back like ivory crescents. And from beneath its closed eyes, the tears kept falling, one by one. Yet there was no fire, no roar, no threat, only sadness. Luma knew she should turn back. She had wandered too far already. Her parents would be searching. Her feet ached, and her pockets held nothing but a dried apple slice and a pebble shaped like a heart. But something held her there. A feeling in her chest, soft and strange. Not fear, not really. More like longing. As if the dragon's sorrow called out to hers. She stepped closer. The ground was soft beneath her boots, and the air had changed heavier now, full of an ancient quiet. The dragon didn't move. Its chest rose and fell slowly, like a sleeping hill, and its nostrils let out curls of silvery steam. She circled it gently, noticing that its tail was curled tightly around something. She tiptoed forward, craning her neck to see. Nestled between the coils of its tail was a stone bowl. No, not stone. Something lighter, almost translucent. It shimmered faintly, and inside it, tiny lights flickered like stars caught in a jar. But the lights were dim, fading, as if tired from shining. Luma didn't understand, but her heart beat faster. She reached into her pouch and drew out the feather she had caught earlier, the first one that had led her here. It still glowed, though faintly now, and as she held it over the bowl, the lights inside stirred. Just slightly. A few twinkled brighter. The dragon opened one eye. Only one, golden and ancient, filled with oceans of memory. Luma held her breath. Her legs wobbled, but the dragon did not roar, did not move, just watched. And from that one eye, another tear slipped free. Suddenly, the forest around her whispered soft voices, not words, but feelings. Shapes shifted between the trees, shadows that didn't belong to anything. Luma felt the air hum with magic. Old, gentle, sorrowful magic. Then she heard it not with her ears, but inside her mind. A voice, as deep as mountains and as soft as falling leaves. Not language, exactly, but meaning. The dragon was speaking, not in words, but in stories. 1,000 stories at once. Luma saw them unfold in her mind like dreams, Dragons flying across golden skies, soaring above mountains and oceans, their scales shining like stardust. She saw them building secret places, gardens in the clouds, islands that floated above rainbows, caves where dreams were stored in crystal jars. She saw them care for the world, not with fire, but with feeling. They wept when rivers dried, and their tears brought back water. They sang when forests faded, and their songs made the trees bloom again. They listened to the wind and guarded the sky's forgotten songs. But slowly, humans stopped believing. They stopped listening. They built walls and cities and made noise that drowned out the dragon songs. Dragons faded into myths, stories, forgotten. And when a dragon's heart breaks not from anger, but from sorrow, they come here, to the place where dragons go to cry. Luma's eyes filled with tears too. Not because she was afraid, but because she understood. This dragon had come to mourn, to rest, to let go. But something was wrong. The bowl, the one holding the lights, was not supposed to dim. It was called the heart flame, and it held the last hopes of the dragon kind. Each light a dream, a wish, a memory. But the flame was flickering out, because no one remembered. Luma stepped back. Her mind raced. She was only a girl. She couldn't fix a dragon's sorrow. But then she remembered the feather. It had led her here, and it had stirred the lights. Maybe that meant something. She pulled out the heart-shaped pebble from her pocket and gently placed it beside the bowl. Nothing happened. Then she took the dried apple slice, her favorite snack, which she had been saving, and placed it next to the pebble. Still, nothing. She looked up at the dragon, whose golden eye watched with quiet patience. Then she remembered something her grandmother once told her, long ago during a stormy night. That true magic begins when someone offers not what they have, but what they are. Luma closed her eyes and thought hard about everything she loved, her parents' laughter, the way fireflies danced in the orchard, the taste of honey on warm bread, her dreams of flying, her wish to see something no one else had seen. She whispered those feelings, not aloud, but into the feather. She wrapped her hands around it and held it close to her heart. Then, with a breath, she placed it gently into the bowl. The feather sank slowly, and the lights changed. They didn't grow brighter, not at first, but they began to move, slowly at first, then with a little more life. One by one, the tiny lights swirled, circling the feather like moths to a flame. The dragon stirred. A low hum filled the forest like a lullaby made from wind and water. The trees bent slightly, as if bowing. The moss beneath Luma's feet glowed faintly. The heart flame was waking. Then came the sound, soft and aching. A single note, sung not from throat, but from soul. The dragon was singing. It was a song of gratitude, of hope, sparked once more. Luma felt her chest bloom with warmth. She didn't understand how or why, but something in her had mattered, had helped. The dragon slowly rose, unfolding its wings like great silver sails. It moved with grace, ancient and noble, its sorrow softened by something new. Not joy, not yet, but peace. Then it turned its head toward Luma and lowered it until its eye met hers. She felt the warmth of that gaze, as if the sun itself had stopped to notice her. A soft breath escaped the dragon's nostrils, and the mist swirled around her like a gentle hug. Then, with a powerful push, the dragon leapt into the sky. Luma watched it rise, higher and higher, until it became a speck of light against the blue. She looked down at the bowl. The heart flame still shimmered, but it was stronger now. The feather floated in its center, glowing brighter than before. And as she turned to leave the forest, the trees seemed to whisper her name. Not with sound, with feeling. Luma. The girl who remembered, the girl who gave. And far above, where the clouds gathered like dreams, the dragon's cry rang out not of sorrow, but of song. The sky had turned a pale orange by the time Luma began her journey back through the forest. Each step felt lighter, as if the ground itself was helping her along. The trees no longer loomed with quiet sadness, they shimmered gently, as though the magic of the dragon's song still clung to their leaves. But the path home was not the same. Where once there had been silver grass and soft moss, now jagged thorns grew, thick and dark, like coils of shadow. They writhed slightly, even without wind. Luma's heart skipped. She turned, expecting to find the way she came, but behind her, the path was gone. The air had changed. Heavy, cold, still. A low growl echoed from somewhere deep in the trees. Luma clutched her pouch, now almost empty, and stepped forward carefully. She tried to remember the dragon's warmth, the peace she had felt, but the forest around her was no longer the same. The magic here had twisted. It wasn't sorrow anymore. It was anger. Shapes slithered between the trunks, dark, tall, and wrong. Not creatures. Not exactly. More like shadows pretending to be beasts. Eyes opened in the bark of trees. Mouths formed in the fog. The forest whispered again, but now it hissed instead of hummed. Something was coming. From the darkness ahead, a figure emerged. Not a person, not an animal, a tangle of smoke and claws and broken dreams. It had no face, only a mask of cracked stone, and from its chest glowed a hollow flame, pulsing faintly. Luma froze. The creature moved slowly, dragging its long arms behind it like dead vines. It did not speak, but its presence pushed against her thoughts, cold and cruel. A feeling, not a voice, pressed into her mind. It wanted the feather, the one she had given to the heart flame, the one that had lit the dragon's song. It wanted to take it back. Luma stumbled, heart racing. Her hands trembled as she reached again for the heart-shaped pebble in her pocket, her only comfort left. The creature's eyes, if they were eyes, locked onto her. The forest darkened further. She remembered what the dragon had shown her, the sorrow of being forgotten, the fading of dreams. This thing this shadow was born of, that forgetting. A piece of magic turned bitter, and it wanted to end the light. Luma backed away, but the creature moved faster, sliding like oil across the ground. Thorns rose behind her, blocking escape. The air squeezed her lungs, her knees buckled. She was just a girl. What could she do? Then, a soft light stirred inside her pouch. Not bright, not bold, but steady. The feather she had offered, she had given it away, hadn't she? Yet now, somehow, its warmth had returned. Not the object itself, but the gift. The part of herself she had offered, the memories, the kindness, the dreams. They had taken root in her. The dragon song had left something behind. A spark. And in that moment, Luma stood. The creature lunged, a blur of smoke and claws, but Luma held out the pebble in her hand, the one shaped like a heart, and focused all her memories into it. The orchard's blossoms in spring, the scent of warm bread, her mother's stories by candlelight, the laughter of her little brother, the light of fireflies in summer. She poured it all into that tiny stone, and the stone pulsed. A single clear note rang out soft and silver, like a chime in the wind. The creature stopped. The forest stilled, and for a heartbeat, the world listened. Then the light burst forth. Not loud, not fiery, but pure. It flowed from the pebble in a stream of warmth, curling through the air like ribbon. It wrapped around the creature not to destroy, but to heal. The cracks in its mask softened. The hollow flame in its chest flickered. The creature shuddered, and for the first time, it cried. Dark tears rolled down its smoky face, turning to light as they fell. The claws lowered, the thorns shrank back into the earth. The angry hiss of the forest quieted. The creature sank to its knees, dissolving slowly, like ash caught in morning rain, and the forest exhaled. Luma stood very still. Her hands tingled. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from awe. The path ahead was clear now. The silver grass had returned. The trees, no longer watching in sorrow, shimmered once more with the soft glow of peace. A shape moved above her. The dragon! It soared low over the trees, its wings casting great shadows that felt like shelter, not threat. It circled once, slowly, then rose again into the sky, leaving behind a trail of golden mist. The path home had returned, but Luma didn't step onto it just yet. She turned, looking once more at the place where the creature had stood. A small blossom had grown there, pale and delicate. She knelt and gently touched it. It pulsed faintly with warmth. She knew then what the dragon had tried to teach her. Magic wasn't only in feathers or songs or tears. It lived in memory, in kindness, in those who choose to remember the beauty of things, even the forgotten, even the broken, especially them. Luma stepped onto the path once more, her heart steady, her spirit quiet. The forest that had twisted with sorrow now shimmered softly with light. The silver leaves fluttered gently in the breeze, as if waving her forward, and the mossy ground beneath her feet glowed with every step. Each tree she passed seemed to lean closer, not in warning, but in farewell. The trail led her past the place where the dragon had once wept. The moss there was brighter now, and in the center, where the heart-flame bowl had been, a tiny pool of light now shimmered, fed by the soft flicker of the dreams it held. The feather she had offered was gone, but its glow lived on in every beam of light that danced across the clearing. A single scale lay near the edge of the pool, gleaming silver and soft as silk. Luma picked it up gently and tucked it into her pouch, not as a treasure, but as a promise. When she finally stepped out of the silver forest and back into the edge of the orchard, the sun had dipped low, painting the sky with streaks of orange and gold. The branches above her swayed in the warm evening breeze, and birds called softly to one another across the treetops. Her village came into view. Lanterns were glowing in the windows, and the smell of warm bread drifted through the air. She heard her name, faintly at first, then louder. Her parents ran to meet her, arms open, eyes wide with relief. They wrapped her in hugs, holding her tightly, asking questions all at once. Luma said very little. Not because she was hiding anything, but because there were no words that could truly explain. Instead, she smiled and rested her head on her mother's shoulder, her fingers brushing the feather-shaped patch of warmth still hidden in her pocket. Days passed, then weeks. Life in the village returned to its gentle rhythm. Luma helped gather apples. She read books by the fire. She laughed with her little brother. And sometimes, she stared up at the sky, watching for something silver among the clouds. She never spoke of the dragon, but small things began to change. Children in the village began finding feathers shimmering, faintly glowing, caught in tree branches, or drifting on the breeze. Flowers bloomed in strange, perfect shapes like stars or wings or tiny lanterns. When people walked through the orchard, they sometimes felt something pass beside them. Not wind, not shadow, something soft, something watching, something kind. And Luma began to draw. On scraps of bark and parchment, with bits of charcoal and berry juice, she drew pictures of things no one remembered. Dragons curled in cloud gardens, children riding on shimmering backs, plain songs written in the stars. She left them hidden around the village, tucked into fence posts, tied to tree limbs, buried beneath stones where only curious eyes might find them. She called them stories, but really, they were reminders. One evening, near the first snow, she sat beside the stream where the orchard met the forest. The water was low and clear, and the stones beneath it glowed faintly in the moonlight. Luma opened her pouch and took out the silver scale. She placed it gently on a flat stone, then closed her eyes. She did not ask for anything. She simply remembered. The dragon's eye, golden and deep. The sorrow that had once filled the forest. The song that had awakened the trees. And the light she had carried, not in her hands, but in her heart. A soft wind passed through the trees. The water rippled. Then, just for a moment, the sky shimmered. High above, something moved vast and silent and silver. Not a cloud, not a bird. A dragon. And though no one else saw it, Luma smiled. She knew what it meant. The dragons were not gone. They had never been gone. They had only been waiting. Waiting to be remembered. Waiting for kindness. Waiting for someone to care. That night, Luma dreamed of the heart flame. It flickered quietly beneath the silver forest, watched over by creatures of mist and starlight. And in the center of its glow, the feather she had given had become a tree, small and shining, its leaves shaped like little wings. It would grow, because she had believed, because she had listened, because she had wept, not in fear, but in love. In her dream, the dragon bowed its great head once more, and from its eye, a single tear fell not of sorrow, but of joy. And far away, across mountains and clouds and oceans of wind, the dragon sang again, softly, bravely, gratefully. And above the world, where dreams become sky, Their tears became stars.